Alright, what's up guys, time for another video. And while I already did a video, I could have done better and more to the point about the far leftist simp. I want to talk about the far right, like I promised, simp. And I'll tell you, the simp on the far right, which I always said the far left I can't stand, the real far left. And then the far right doesn't like me anyway, thinks I should get a haircut, and doesn't like any YouTubers with hair like mine. Some of them have better hair and not as bald as me, but the far right that doesn't like me much anyway, or a lot of people with my hair length. But I'm not saying every single aspect of religion is bad, but when you got the far right conservative simp, they're hilarious. They're some of my favorite comedians, and the reason why I want to talk about them, there's also a con man inside them too. So they're not just the ones that are simps. They're not just simps. They're con men. And to understand the concept of the religious simp or the conservative simp or far right simp, the church-going simp, you'd have to know their opposite trait. Which the feminists on the left like to talk about, the opposite trait that the opposite side of the simp, instead of being simp, that they're male, raspy voice, some pot bellies, and all women in church should be totally making babies and totally this and that. But the church-going simp isn't like that old school way, you know what I mean? Women should be in the kitchen and pregnant. No, the church-going simp is like, some of them, when they're aging, they still get kind of simp, but then they turn creeper in the same way, but they're also con man. Bear with me here. Unlike the other traits where the diehard raspy voice preacher or dude, when, like I said before, which you be, don't want to go all day about it, the diehard Baptists and people like that. The Catholics are different. They're more like, been into boys and all kind of scandals, so that's totally different. But you might get, some of them were victims and some of them were a little bit of everything too, you know what I mean? But that's a different story. But okay, the regular behavior of the far right conservative simp is, they're always flirtatious, they're always kissing ass, as opposed to the diehard old-fashioned ways that I'm not going to spend all day in a video about. Flirt, kiss ass, always looking for approval to kiss the ass of every single female. A lot of times always talking to everybody else's wife. And usually the older ones too, because since some of them are con men, talking in parentheses here, the con man in there, there's a lot of times trying to get them to loosen their purses. They'll talk to the older folk, the wife of the older guy, too, because maybe they're older, retired, they have more money, and they're looking to finance their causes or whatever the hell that, really dumb Christians that even watch television ministries, they'll pull their money, like, right out, and they'll, their mannerisms and their so-called looks, they want to be dressed up, always the cute boy. Unlike the very masculine, old-fashioned Baptist, they're like want to put themselves up as a little bit more emasculated, and they're trying to be a cute boy, and they want to, they also flirt, not just with people's wives, women, girls, looking for approval of them. They'll shake hands with the guys. They'll flirt with the young girls down a certain age. Always flirting and going beyond being cordial and friendly, like in a church, get too flirtatious, you know what I mean? And be like, maybe littler girls say, if I had kids and girl and I was in a church, I would see through it right away. They're always ones that everybody else's kids, especially little girls, they want to, somebody else's kids put them on they're too quick. You got to be suspicious of them because they're too quick to, little girls have them on their lap and tickling and all that shit, which if I was a parent, I'll tell you what, in a church, and say if I had kids and I had a girl and they behaved like this, no matter how innocent it looks, I would guarantee you I'd be kicked out of that church or fined, because I would grab the dude by the scruff, drag him, put him face down on the altar of the church, take my belt off, and spank his damn ass right on the altar of the church, and telling him to repent, pretty much, because that would be my God-given duty as a father, put it that way. Call me crazy, but if I had kids, and if you maybe some of you guys might agree with me a little bit of that, but I'd be a little bit overly protective over, say, kid, if like I had kids. But I'm glad I don't have kids, because I'm better off that I didn't, put it that way. But anyway, as aside for that, like I said, the big major ass kissers. A lot of times it's for attention, and a lot of times it's for career recommendation or financial recommendation. They want money to finance some product. Some project or product, and there's some kind of wannabe, this thing that they want to do, not for God, but it's for themselves. So a lot of times it's a little bit of financial gain and con man thing in there too, and you never know. You might even have one that's for financial gain, get a bunch of money off of some people and then just take off and you never see them again. I'm sure that's happened, but I just want to make fun of that, because there's some of these people that would look down your nose at me or say you or whatever, but then you'll see going on in some of the bigger. I'm not saying everybody just because they're Christian or religious they're like that. I mean, I grew up politically, I can't stand the far left. I care about the poor. If I was on the left, this other side of the left would stone me to death, you know what I'm saying? I'd be on if I was on the left, people and cared about the poor people, saying, "What the hell are you doing here?" I'd be accused. Or just part of the left, I'd get accused of being in league with the right and stone me to death. And the far right would accuse me of shit, God knows what. Everything from Aleister Crowley Satanism to maybe being some kind of tree-hugging communist thing, whatever the hell they want to call it. But yeah, I mean, but I'm talking about on the lines of the far right, ultra-conservative of religious culture. You got as opposed to the ultra-masculine, raspy voices when they get older, pot-bellied, maybe Baptist saying, all women are down here and should be pregnant in the kitchen and totally submissive. The simp in that lifestyle is the total opposite. They don't declare themselves as feminists per se, but you can what did Kim, if you got this far in this video, I know years ago my mother put on one time one of these Christian comedians one time. They don't call themselves feminists, but you got a neo-feminist type of culture inside some of your yuppie churches, where I remember hearing a quote from a Christian comedian talk. She's saying that like she's joking. She ain't really being a comedian. She's using it as a disguise for the neo-feminist side. And why? These are the type of people that would like the church simp. For example, she made a quote about her husband. Well, of course she's joking because she's a comedian and all. Said, "Oh, do you want to be happy or do you want to be right?" Say in an argument. So, not saying anybody inside that culture or the church culture is feminist per se, but where the thing that goes hand in hand with the male religious simp is you got the women in the culture that don't declare themselves feminist, but they would prefer the really wimpy, simpy Christian male that kisses his ass to the point. Because even though they don't believe in feminism, they do kind of believe in being a master per se. You know what I mean? You got the far right that's mostly money grabbers in religion, claiming that they need a bunch of money for God and a fancy airplane, and the butt kissers there. And then you got the far left communists that don't like religion and don't want police and everything else, and they worship drugs, and Mr. King of the Streets is their Mr. King of the Streets drug dealer is their god. I mean, you got to wonder which sides of the track, which extreme side of the tracks is worse. You know what I mean? Don't get me started there.